In Mogekocastle, you play as Yonaka, a normal high school girl who's on a trip to visit her brother. Tired as she is, however, she ends up sleeping in the train during the trip and ends up in an unknown station called Mogeko Station. Not being familiar with this station, however, she exits it to try to more or less understand where she is. Realizing that she's completely lost, however, she tries to go back to the station in order to wait out to take another train to maybe be able to arrive at a place she's at least more familiar with. However, as she tries to do so, she is intercepted by various small, kind of cutesy little monsters called mogekos. Very weird, violent, and grossly perverted little critters who, for some reason, worship prosciutto, essentially hen, as the food of the gods. They like other foods too, this kind of comedic detail of the game, along with some other things, but yeah, they mainly like to the point of even religious zealotry. They literally imprison, I think, mogekos who don't like prosciutto as some kind of like irregulars that need to be eliminated, just so you get an idea. Oh, and yes, I know I'm butchering the pronunciation of that word. I'm Brazilian, leave me alone. Anyway, the little detour aside, these creatures see Yonaka, and given that she is their favorite, their type, high school girl, they threaten essentially to do unspeakable things to her. And so, playing as her, you need to run away from them. Else, as you can probably imagine, you get a game over. Doing so, however, you're cornered, unfortunately, and the only place where you're able to hide from the creatures is at the proverbial belly of the beast, their castle. So it's either be abducted right now, that's one of your choices, or enter the castle and have to run away and hide constantly in order to avoid, hopefully, getting found out for a bit longer. And so, with very little choice, as you can probably tell, she ends up having to enter the very realm of the accursed things chasing her. She is able to avoid them for a little bit, but at some point she's almost discovered until she is rescued by a very strange Mogeko who is fortunately on her side, who does not want to do unspeakable things to her, thankfully. And he informs her that there is no way to return to her world through the train station, unfortunately. And that paradoxically, which is going to be the theme for this whole game, the very castle doesn't obey many of the laws of reality and is quite nonsensical to our human minds. But if she ever wants to go back home, she will need to instead climb all the floors of the castle up until the last one, the seventh, in order to find a portal there that will take her to her actual world. And so that's how the game progresses. That's more or less the formula, the structure of the game. You playing as Yonaka need to constantly avoid the Mogekos as you climb the floors of the castle in a very linear fashion. As you do so, you will meet various wacky and interesting and sometimes even terrifying characters, sometimes all at the same time. You have to make a bunch of choices, most of which don't really matter, or well, only give you a bad ending. That's another thing that it's interesting about this game. Every single floor, you through one of the choices that is given to you are able to achieve a different bad ending. And so this is one of those ending collector kind of games. Has in my own playthrough where I didn't really explore everything and didn't set out to be a completionist, even then, just by having a bit of fun, I was able to get most of them. But again, a bit of a tangent. Let's go back to the actual game structure. As I alluded to before, this game can be quite terrifying and horrific, but it, as you probably were able to tell by the title, has, and just by looking at the screen, let's be real, has a bit of a comedic side to it too. It can be both terrifying, comedic, and well, even both at the same time. It really alternates between these two tones in a rather masterful way. None of them ever interfere with the other. When you're supposed to take a scene seriously, the game is respectful enough to not let humor interfere with the horror and to actually let these scenes hit you as hard as they need to. And when it's just having fun, it goes completely over the top nonsensical and fully uses the setting in order to make something actually really funny. Not only that, but as you climb the floors of the Mogekocastle, you also slowly unlock Yonaka's memories with her brother, slowly building up to the reveal, the story's kind of twist, as you finally meet him, when you're finally able to escape and visit him at the end, as you were trying to do from the very beginning. And if my description seemed a bit vague this time, that's because it has to be, unfortunately. As while I still think it makes sense to make a summary video like this, as there are quite a few things that I want to discuss about the game that wouldn't be very fitting to a gameplay format. This really is one of those games that you have to experience yourself. I actually tried to summarize the plot and narrate it like I usually do, but it just ended up sounding kinda lame. And this game isn't lame at all. This was one of the most fun games I've played recently. But unfortunately, summarizing it like a normal story kinda takes the charm away. Because this game is, the best way I think I would describe it would be like one of those artist pages that they essentially use as a dumping ground for their full unfiltered creativity. The story is very interpretative and you really need to kind of abstract a lot of the events and like make your own conclusions about what's going on and how literal you can take certain things. Like I alluded to before, there are some very nonsensical events that take full advantage of the fact that the castle doesn't need to abide by the laws of reality. The author just randomly insert their OCs into the story as well, and like they all have their own mini arcs and participations that don't interfere at all. They are neither just background characters only there for a little cameo. They actually have their own little story within the game that you can follow, but their participation is not essential either. And so it just creates this really raw experience. Like you're literally looking at the author's mind, their unfiltered thoughts and opinions and creative like output in general. And like I alluded to before, though the story has a kind of linear progression, that linear progression is just a way to structure and make some sense of what would otherwise be complete nonsense. It just makes that sort of nonsense more digestible and more entertaining, essentially. unfortunately, it's because of that brilliant structure that I again can't really summarize this in detail like I like to do. Because to summarize to you some of the more serious elements of the game, some of the more horrific and like dramatic parts of the story would be like describing objectively what's happening in the, I think the name is Chronos eating baby Zeus painting, right? I could describe this objectively. I could describe the superficial details, the painting to you, but it would kind of take away from the experience because that's not really the point. The point of the picture is for you to again experience it and draw your own conclusions. And so it really is the kind of game that you need to play for yourself, or you need to at least watch a playthrough of it in order to get the full experience. All I can give you as a way to properly convey the quality of this game and what it is about is again a more qualitative and superficial description, an analysis more than a summarization, unfortunately. And the more comedic moments, obviously, if I were to summarize them like a normal story, it would be kind of like explaining a joke, right? When you explain a joke, it's not funny anymore. So again, I can't do that for either part of the story. Again, a bit frustrating, especially to people who are probably fans of my usual structure, but I hope you understand and believe me when I say that the way I'm doing things right now is the best way to actually convey the experience of the game in a way that truly expresses and essentially gives you a good idea of why it is so good. Why I would obviously, if you haven't been able to figure out at this point, recommend it to people, right? In order to really be able to demonstrate why I think it's so special. So yeah, TLDR, I know that this is frustrating, but just trust me, bro. This was the best way to make this video, or at least the best way I could make this video. Maybe I just suck, I don't know. Anyway, but I told you that this game was essentially an artist's dumping ground, right? And so, what about the art? Well, you've been able to see it this whole time. It's essentially a really cute and really unique blend of an anime art style and a more cartoony aesthetic. Kind of like shows such as Puffy Yumi, one of my personal favorites, and Panty and Stocking. So yeah, it's just a really unique art style that is very easily recognizable and really pleasant too. I think it's the best of all worlds. If you're an artist watching this video, obviously don't like copy this detail for detail, but really inspire yourself on this art style, on trying to make your art style a balance of things. Try to make it pleasant, try to base yourself on things that have already worked, don't try to reinvent the wheel, but do it in a way that portrays your own unique vision. It's obviously a difficult thing to ask of anyone, but this is definitely what you should aim to achieve. Even if you don't do it perfectly, you should at least try to make your art style, again, not in terms of form, but in terms of quality, like this. This is the sort of art style you should inspire yourself on. I really hope I'm making myself clear with this. Oh god, it's just whatever, let's move on. I hope you get the point. I really do. But yeah, there isn't going to be a whole lot to say in this section where I usually reserve to my final thoughts. Obviously, I think this game is amazing. It's a really good story to just follow, has a linear tale. It's a really good story to interpret and try to figure out some deep meaning if you're into that. It's a really funny story if you're just here for the nonsensical laws, essentially. It's got a really great art style. It does some really creative things with the RPG Maker engine. The art for it not only has an art style, but the actual art that's applied to the CGs and the character portraits and even the goddamn menu. Just look at this. And it changes too throughout the game. It's just amazing. I don't think I could recommend you to play this game more if I tried. Again, if I really need to hit you in the head with this message to get it through your thick skull, like play this damn game. It's really good. You will definitely not regret it. No matter what type of person you are or what you're looking for in a story, absolutely play this game. It's amazing. And that will be it for today. If you like this video, please do all the normal YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, etc. And I genuinely do hope to see you next time. If you really liked it, I'd also really appreciate if you could support me financially, either through a one-time paid comment donation or by joining my membership, where for $1 a month, you get to participate in exclusive polls in order to decide which videos I'll make next. Like, which of my plans should I focus on? Which of the content I have in mind do you want to see first? That kind of thing. As well as get your name put in this fancy little screen right here. Just as a small gesture of appreciation, exactly for your monthly support. But of course, no matter how much you choose to give me, as well as if you choose to give me anything at all, do know that I really appreciate any cent you're willing to throw my way, as well as just the fact that you're watching this video up to this point at all. But with all that stuff out of the way, I think it's finally time to, as always, bid you guys farewell. Obscure Anime out.